do this. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Neo Eastern Jam Show featuring Liz. My name is Neo, and we have East.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for showing up.
And we have Jam.
To the west.
And we have Liz.
What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday.
All right, welcome everybody. So, to tell you a little bit about the show, we're four longtime friends with very different opinions. We tackle all kind of topics: pop culture, politics, health, social topics, sports, you name it. Something different every single episode. So, we have one rule though. One rule. No cussing. So, Jan, what happens if someone is caught using that foul language?
That particular foul language, when used, that person is frowned upon. Like that. But also, they have to pay $10, 10 whole dollars, cash money, and that money will later be sent to a fund of the group's choosing. Also, if they violate the aforementioned rule 3 times, they also get to write a special love letter to the
Commando
love letter to the man in charge himself.
Beautiful
gold,
love letter.
orange gold.
And I think that doesn't work for me because then he's just gonna want to grab my pussy. So I never.
Up to $50 already?
I think I don't know if cats are illegal. Are cats illegal or not?
You just rolled out there like that.
Right. It's gonna be a good day. It's gonna be a good day for the SPCA.
All right, guys, we have a great show ahead. We have smoking hot topics, a quick rundown of some of the hottest topics of the week. Then we have Help Me Understand Something. We're asking the question, very tough question. Children can't possibly know they're gay, right? And why can't we talk about it? And then we'll close out with another fun game we're calling Trump-ettes. All right, without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Jam for a couple of shout-outs.
All right, now I'm gonna start things with a little levity. If you guys remember, we had this guy. We like to call him President Obama because we liked him. He'd be president. We use those words together. And he spoke yesterday. He did a commencement.
Shout-outs, Jam. We're doing shout-outs.
Oh, my bad, it's too early. Shout out to the
I thought you were about to shout out Obama or something.
Yeah.
I was like, yay. Jumping in hot topics, boy.
Okay, shout out. We got our logo designer. We got Troy. We got Ayana. We got our regular Ruben. Thank you, Ruben, so much for the feedback. Ty, thank you so much for the love. Did I miss anybody? Shout outs so far.
We got Kenyatta. Ruben's on. Yep. Got a few people
Kenyatta,
on.
what's up? So, all right.
Are you ready for some hot topics? And let's go on. I'm excited about them hot topics.
Okay. So I'd like to give a shout out to. Now, first off, again, we all got to see Shiny Obama in our dreams yesterday for a minute. He spoke for too short of a time.
All right.
Memories of the way we were.
Did you guys catch that? Did you hear?
Short of a time.
So,
yeah.
Did you catch what he said? Any comments on that?
Oh, that shade. Let's see. He always finds a way to drop some shade, doesn't he? He always finds a way to drop some shade.
What's convenient, what's easy. That's how little kids think. Unfortunately, a lot of so-called grown-ups, including some with fancy titles and important jobs, still think that way. They're so screwed up.
Yeah, Obama killed it. I mean, he will find a way, very creatively, to say Trump sucks without saying Trump sucks. Wait, hold on, I gotta hear it again. Hold on. It was very eloquent. Very eloquent.
Doing what feels good, what's convenient, what's easy. That's how little kids think. Unfortunately, a lot of so-called grown-ups, including some with fancy titles and important jobs, still think that way. That's why things are so screwed up.
That's why they screw it up. That's your boy.
I mean, for Obama, that was a direct. That was a direct shot.
Direct.
I mean, Obama usually goes around and with these fancy words and, as Jam says the SAT words. That was a straight kill shot. That time.
Is a little kid.
I mean, I like this follow up as well. And he was like, all those adults used to think you knew what they were in charge, and knew what they were doing. Turns out they don't have all the answers.
What's up,
So
Keisha?
the world's gonna get better.
Shout out,
It's gonna
Keisha.
be up to you. So, like, a lot of them aren't even asking the right questions. I like that. You're not even playing the right game. You showed up in the wrong pants with the volleyball. This is football, baby. I'm just saying. He was ready. Loved it.
Might include McConnell in that one too.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Moscow.
That bad itch Mitch. Bad itch Mitch. Moving on. This one's for the kids. So, we've had so much going on in football, y'all. There have been games everywhere. They were playing this game the other day. They had these cards out, and they had these guns out, And wait, I can't. What happened? What? Y'all want to tell us a little bit more about this, Liz? East?
I was gonna ask, like, what were they playing? Were they playing spades? Were they playing tonk? Were they playing Uno? Like, what was the game?
So what happened? Tell me what happened. Who knows? What's up, Kevin?
Allegedly, the story goes that they were playing cards. They didn't specify the report I read. They didn't specify the game,
Right, same here.
they were shooting dice, craps, and they lost about $70,000
Whoa.
on one.
That was the day
Then the
before.
next day, right, Liz? Then the next day they came back and they claimed that
Guns blazing.
exactly. It started a full argument to get to the point where they felt justified in pulling out guns and then reclaiming property. They stole designer watches, cash, and allegedly they had 3 getaway cars, and I believe one was a Lamborghini.
Are you kidding?
Wait, there are only 2.
I mean, it was
Wait,
all
I'm confused.
of that?
Why do they have 3 getaway cars for 2?
For 2 people?
They have to-
Hey,
Because they had the hype man. They had to have the hype.
Yeah.
What was the purpose? What were they trying to accomplish? I'm confused.
they're trying to get their stuff back, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Flavor Flav is the son of the king. Oh, sorry.
Wanting to know what game they were playing. Like, do you think they had masks on when they were robbing these folks with their guns out? Were they still robbing? Ooh.
Nah, I think they just went in there, said, "Look, we're gonna get our stuff back. No mask." I mean,
So
I haven't been around a lot of football players, but I think they got a definitive physical appearance. So I imagine everybody knew. And by the way, we're talking about New York Giants cornerback DeAndre Baker and current Seahawks cornerback Quentin Dunbar.
Former Redskin.
Former Redskin.
What did you say?
$10, $4. What? Oh!
Oh, wow. One more. What?
That was both you guys. That was Neo and East.
Neo?
With my former.
Oh, yes, I did say
Okay, my bad, Liz. I didn't mean to yell you out.
I didn't say it. I said that Hopkins. As my former job as a sports journalist for Sports Illustrated, I've been around a lot of football players, and honestly, if I were at this game, I would have been like, pull up, shoot me, Emma, MFer, shoot me, I dare you, I dare you. I wouldn't have been giving up my watch for nothing. Shoot me.
Jake?
I'm trying not to curse.
I mean, I don't know. These players these days, I wouldn't take that chance, Liz. They might take you up on it.
I'm not giving a mofo my stuff, especially over a card game, because you were stupid enough to lose $70,000. That's not on you, bro. Go home to your girlfriend.
Did you say 7 or 7D?
17.
Okay, because it sounded like you said 7. There's a little difference, you know.
I'm not giving up $7.
I mean, these guys, I don't think they had the money like that to lose it. I mean, Baker's on his rookie deal.
One of them has a lawyer now. He was putting out press releases saying that he has proof. They have affidavits from certain people who were at the barbecue at the cookout that said that he didn't rob anybody. And I'm just like, we don't believe you. We don't believe you.
He turned himself in, right?
We don't believe you.
So, I mean, he filed affidavits. I mean, that's not what, $10,000 you got to pay versus 70. It's worth it. Shit. I mean,
Avi Putty, what's up? Sun's out, guns out. Okay. Okay.
You tell him. You tell him, Putster. You tell him.
All right, what's up next?
Yeah, those Florida boys are no joke, though.
Yeah.
True. All right. Next, we got an interesting one about this. There's a lot going on here, but it all the nonsense started to hit the floor when Bennett was asked to step down from his NIH position.
Who's Bennett?
He is one. Do I have my names right? I'm screwing my name up. He is one of the he was one of the experts that the Trump administration had used to the COVID-19 situation.
So his name is Bennett?
His name right now is Bennett till I find the rest of my notes. And he's in it, this Bennett. And so as he's been asked to step down, all this extra information is leaking. Like the fact that although they had denied it, there was actually Obama's crew did leave a full all-out pandemic plan. Mitch McConnell had just 2 or 3 days before been like, there was no plan, and then boom, Bennett. He's part of his complaint about getting fired is there was a plan, and you guys didn't acknowledge it. And now, to make this even more interesting, if you guys want to follow along with all this nonsense, as they look into what's going on, this seems to be connected. Here's my political, and I'm going to drop it on the floor. So as they're looking into this, we have, what's his name? Steve Linick, the Inspector General at the State Department, who was also just released by the Trump administration over the weekend. He's being, as he's released, and senators are starting to look into that. One of the senators who's connected to that, Engel, and another name. There's too many names for me. And Burr. Okay, now I got a lot of stuff going on here. I'm trying to spell out a full conspiracy theory for you. So hold on for me. So now we got Burr. hold on. It's a lot. So we have Burr over here, who is just finishing up the Senate intelligence report about Russia, right? Okay. Now Burr is one of the people who has to do with this Inspector General at the State Department and is investigating it. But Burr, if you will notice, just got hemmed up and had his cell phone taken by the FBI for illegal stock trades going back to COVID-19 before anybody knew about it in early February, and they released it to the public. So they grabbed up his stuff, and now Burr has taken a step back, and they are looking to replace him. And therefore, all this information, because he was head of the intelligence committee, all this information that he has his hands on and is controlling is now going to go to someone else. I know that made no sense, but if you take the time to parse it out, it might make sense.
Hold on, guys.
So much more sense in my head.
Jam, were you talking about?
Yes.
You weren't talking about Rick Bright, were you?
No, I was not talking about Rick Bright.
I mean, were you talking about Bennett?
I'm going to agree with Thaxton up here.
Bennett, who wasn't in it.
Did anyone check what Jam drank before the show?
First off, the cup is empty.
Thanks, Thaxton.
Now the cup is
Good
empty.
looking out. I was going to ask the same question.
I'm done. So, thanks for sharing, Liz. Thanks for sharing. Good looking out. Big dogs. All right, I'm done with that one. I just wanted to share.
So apparently they let go of 3 inspector generals over the last.
Apparently, the White House is saying these hoes ain't loyal. Period. End of discussion.
Yeah, but these are the watchdogs for the White House.
But they ain't loyal.
All of them.
They gotta go. They ain't loyal.
So who?
I mean, for this guy specifically, for the State Department, allegedly Pompeo wanted him out because he was investigating Pompeo for having a staff member do personal work on government time.
I remember that. Yeah.
So Pompeo's like, "Hey, look, you got to go. This isn't working out." And they've long since given up any sense of transparency in this administration. So, like you said, Neil, over the last actually late Friday, they always get rid of these people late on a Friday.
So nobody can talk about it. So it's
Right.
yeah.
Let's go.
Because by Monday it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Right. Trump says so much mess. It's on to the next foolishness, and everybody forgot about this guy.
Yep.
My concern with it being the inspector generals is that they're inspector generals. I don't know exactly what they're in charge of, but as the inspector generals, like,
They're
aren't they agencies?
Yep.
Like,
They are, yeah, they are.
Yeah, like you said, Trump is systematically getting rid of anybody who has anything to do with oversight. And I think ultimately he's trying to get rid of people who might even have something to do with oversight of the
elections?
recovery funds.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think you're right, because that was the first one, wasn't it?
That was the first one, right?
Yeah. And actually, I think in the bill that the House just passed, that has yet to go to the Senate, the Inspector General of the State Department has some role in overseeing the funds that are doled out. So, Trump's dumb, but he's not that stupid. He's getting rid of people who are going to have something to do with the money.
Yeah.
But do we think in the end that it will come back and call him because these people will call him out at some point? Right?
I mean, I don't know why they're not calling him out now. Damn. I'm getting
I
pissed.
think probably they're consulting with their attorneys to see what they can divulge to the public, what they can say about him, about what went on.
Makes sense, right.
But I don't think everyone's going to keep their mouth shut. Like, somebody is going to be pissed,
You mean like Mike Flynn? I mean, he didn't keep his mouth shut.
But he's still loyal. He didn't really flip, though.
He was loyal.
I mean, he lied, but Trump has since said, I would hire him again. I would bring him back.
And he ultimately got him released. I mean,
thank goodness for the good judge who was like, it ain't going down like that. We're not going for this. The Justice Department now is under investigation for trying to drop all charges against Michael Flynn. I think the one thing that the judge erred in is that he didn't give him a sentence right away. Like, he sentenced off. So that's why we're at this point. So far, he hasn't really served any jail time for being convicted for lying and pleading guilty to lying twice. But yeah, it's.
I was wondering if him not taking that action extended the amount of time they could sort of hold him in that like, you can't take the next action with him till that first action is complete. I was wondering if that was part of the judge's, like, overall plan. Like, if he doesn't sentence him, then no further action can take place until that sentencing occurs. Do you see what I'm saying? So, like, a process?
I understand what you're saying. I have no idea what the process was behind that. But I also wonder, too, because he pled guilty under the guise of all of the other charges that were against both him and his son were dropped. So it begs the question, okay, if you want us to nullify your guilty plea, then can we go back and charge you again for this other stuff?
Yeah.
I see. Wow.
All right.
So what do you guys think about the, East?
Oh, no, I thought Neil was...
So, what do you guys think about the 200 ex-DOJ employees who are like, Barr, you need to go? 2,000, excuse me. We wrote their little love letter to Barr, encouraging them to let him go.
What happened?
So, there were 2,000 ex-Justice Department employees signed a letter criticizing Barr about his Flynn nonsense. And they were like, hey, we think you should go. You need to think about leaving. You need to go quit. You guys hear about that at all?
Yeah. I definitely. Do I think it carries any weight in the long run. Not really, because we're up against an administration that is, total BS. But I think it speaks a lot about how inept and insubordinate these people are, particularly Barr. Like, this isn't the first time that, we've had ex-employees of the Justice Department speak out against him, who have come out and said, you need to go. You are not unbiased. You are not equipped to hold this job and perform these duties effectively. But so far, it hasn't gotten us anywhere. But I was trying to explain this to someone, a friend of mine, who is in law enforcement and who was defending the Justice Department and Barr in trying to drop the charges against Flynn. And I'm just like, I can't believe as a law enforcement officer that you are saying that everything that they are doing has not been calculated, that Flynn is absolved of all of his wrongdoings. He lied, and he admitted he lied twice. And he went in there and lied on his own with no attorney. No one told him to talk to the feds without an attorney. But yeah, I do think in the public sphere, it means something that you had 2,000 former employees call him out, but I don't think in the long run it's going to mean anything.
Okay.
That's all I got for hot topics. What you got?
All right. Time to change gears then. So, let's go ahead and get started. All right. So, we got a pretty deep topic for helping me understand something. And today we actually have a special guest so that we can really try to hit all the aspects of this topic. So, I'd like to welcome in, hope he's ready,
I am.
Sterling, Washington. Welcome, Sterling.
Welcome, everyone.
Hey, Sterling.
Sterling's
Another classmate, Wilson Tiger.
absolutely.
Exactly.
Welcome.
Out by the
Glad to have you.
flagpole. Out by the flagpole.
All right, so let me introduce you to Sterling. So Sterling holds a BA in Political Science from George Washington University, Bachelor's of Music from Howard, where he was co-founder and president emeritus of the Bisexual, Lesbian, and Gay Organization of Students at Howard University. He was a presidential appointee in the Clinton White House, serving first as a special assistant in the Office of Administration. He also served on the D.C. Mayor Anthony Williams' LGBT Advisory Committee. He was appointed as director of the D.C. Mayor Vincent Gray's Office on Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual, and Transgender Affairs. Sterling was also vice president of Washington, D.C. Coalition of Black LGBT Men and Women, a board member of both D.C. Black Pride and Transgender Health Empowerment. For his work on behalf of the LGBT community, Sterling has received numerous awards, including a Youth Pride Award, Capital Pride Hero Award, and the Gertrude Stein Democratic Club's Richard Rausch Award. And it's important to note, Sterling is a tenor soloist and section lead at National City Christian Church in Washington. That's quite a resume, Sterling. Did we miss anything?
I'm going to give you a...
Nothing else.
All right.
5.
More than enough, actually.
More than enough. All right. So, we definitely want to get to all your questions and comments. This is to the audience, so please post them in the live stream on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, going at the NEJ Show. But I want to say we know this is a hot button topic, and
Repeat the question again.
Yeah. So, our question is: can children really know that they're gay, and why is it hard to talk about it? So we have a hot button topic. So, the reason we're asking this question is to foster positive discussion. So we want to keep any of your comments, questions, keep them respectful. The whole idea is maybe we can actually change positively some people's minds. All right? So, again, here's the question. Children can't possibly know they're gay, right? And why can't we talk about it? Now, when we're talking children in this discussion, we're talking toddler to preteen. That's what we're talking about. So, there's a lot of high-profile celebrities whose children are transitioning. So we have Dwayne Wade's 12-year-old child transitioning, Zaya, right? And then we have Charlene Theron's child also. Apparently, Charlene recently said that her child knew at 3 years old that was gay. So, so we're asking, when do children know? When do people know they're gay? And can children know that they're gay? Now, I was researching for this segment and trying to get a feel for the type of questions that our audience might have, and I came across a YouTube video, and I want to kind of go over that. I'm gonna just pull it up real quick. All right.
JV.
I'm not going to show the whole video, but what I am going to do is kind of talk through it. Now, this young lady, let's see if I can get it up here. So the young lady is actually, she apparently knew that she was going to be, that she was a girl at age 3. That's when she originally found out or felt that she was a girl. So,
JV. Close the door, please.
So we're looking at, but the thing that kind of hit me was the comments in this section, right? So, for example, when I was 4, Jam, can you mute your mic?
I thought I was. Thank you.
Yeah, I was hoping that you'd figure it out. It didn't work out.
The second pause, I knew. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right. So, for example, one of the comments here, when I was 4, I didn't even know I existed, right? Or, oh my God, 4 years old, what an age to be, I wanted to be a cat, right? And kids can't get tattoos by,
Tattoos?
Yeah. Yeah, so, or I'm shocked at insurance company. So apparently, she's also one of the first people who received Medicaid to help her transition. So, it's kind of unusual for that. So some people are saying, I'm shocked that an insurance company would cover something like this. Meanwhile, I can't get them to cover medical things that I need to survive, right? Or I'd like to see a case study of kids who didn't transition and did transition and how they are as adults. So there's a lot to uncover here. So I'm going to start off, and I'm just going to ask a question of East first. And actually, I want to get a feel for the room. I want to this actually isn't part of our topic, but I want to get a feel for the room. And I'm going to ask this question. So, are people born gay? East, I just need a yes or no question. Are people born gay?
Starting with me?
Yeah, starting with you, East.
Yeah. I would say no.
No, people are not born gay. All right, Liz, what do you think?
Yes.
Yes, they're born gay. Jan?
Unequivocally, yes.
Unequivocally, okay.
I think they're just born liking folks. I think it's, if they ever say yes, just because you're born like who you like. But I got a bit more to that. But I'll talk about it later.
Okay. And Sterling.
I would say yes. I think people are born with sexual orientations, whether they know what those orientations are. It's going to be a while before they know what those orientations are, but yes.
Okay. So
the strange thing to talk about the babies have sexual orientation.
okay, all right, great. So I just want to get a feel for where everybody stands generally. Now, these topics about gay and homosexuality strike a chord with a lot of people, and they become really passionate, right? And people who make comments like these tend to get attacked, right? So I'm going to approach our second question first, right? Which is, why is it that we can't talk about it? Why is it so hard to talk about this topic without people getting so highly offended that the discussion turns into a battle? So, East, do you find it hard to talk about this topic?
Short answer, yes. And to elaborate, I think that if I were to just broach the idea of having a conversation about maybe the homosexuality being permeated through the media, like how can I ask the question about how can I talk about it if I don't know how to talk about it without feeling like I'm gonna be attacked for being homophobic.
So
like, I don't want to.
Let me ask you. So are you more worried about offending someone or being attacked for possibly offending someone?
I'm worried about being attacked under the perception that I'm offending somebody.
Okay. All right. Now, Sterling, do you have any idea why this can be such a hot button topic that people who may want to discuss it, have questions, concerns, are having trouble talking about it?
Yes, I mean, I definitely can understand that because it is, for a lot of people, something that's been taboo for a long time, something that has, for others, been hidden in plain sight for a long time. So I certainly understand the discomfort some people feel in asking questions and then indeed in answering questions. I definitely do feel that, and I think what's important is to create safe spaces where people can ask questions in an open, honest way and get feedback.
Okay. Liz, do you find trouble with this? Or how do you feel?
I personally don't have a problem talking about it, and I say that as a heterosexual woman. However, I think it is similar to conversations about race, in that it's a very sensitive topic because people feel exposed, whether they are for or against. They feel like they're going to be judged based on their opinion, whether they're for or against, which I don't think is fair. I don't think is right. But it's the reality of the situation. I think it's very difficult. I think it's a conversation and a topic that a lot of people don't really have a lot of information about. And I'm not necessarily speaking of anyone here on this panel, but just in general. A lot of times when people talk about homosexuality, they talk about whether someone is gay or straight or bi, the first thing that comes to mind is sex. And I think that really sways someone's opinion about whether or not they're comfortable with people being heterosexual or homosexual. When we talk about children saying or expressing their feelings about being homosexual, you're thinking about, okay, well then you're having gay sex. And that permeates the entire conversation when it really isn't about that. But again, I think a lot of it comes from just people feeling like they don't want to be exposed or they don't want to be judged for their opinion, one way or the other.
Okay. Jam, so do you find it hard to talk? I mean, do you have concerns that you find it hard to talk about? You're muted, Jam.
I just figured out how to do it. It's too late. That's all right. So yes and no. I would say, like with some people, like that person in the center of our discussion, that tiger there, like safe space discussion all the way. But when I think about some of the people I went to college with, like there are definitely like it's Karens, for lack of a better descriptor. You say trigger word, I think that, and boom, like the explosions, and you're staying low. So I think it's very much a lot of it involves a lot of that. They're not always safe spaces because people don't even understand what it is to maintain a safe space. But I agree that there has to be a safe space or a level of trust that establishes that.
All right, East. How do you feel about that? Do you think a safe space is the way to do it? Well, we live in a social media age, right? So, for example, if we have this conversation here, you're opening yourself up to being attacked by people. Do you think that's the case, or do you think that you can find a safe space?
I think a safe space can be found. I think this is one of the better forums to have a discussion like that. There's no way to have this discussion on any platform on social media to me, because, like Jam said, one phrase or term could be taken out of context, and then you're a homophobic bigot, on Twitter and Facebook, and that's definitely far from where my thought process is. Actually, there is something.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was about to say, that's something interesting. I really hadn't thought about it. Like, when people think of sexual orientation, they think of the sexual aspect first. And I was thinking, I hadn't thought about it, but I guess that's a factor. I don't know how big of a mitigating factor that is for me. Like, I think of, in terms of the conversation, I think about when we're talking about a child, as you define the age group, I'm just thinking, is that, have they developed enough to make that kind of lifelong decision? And I'm not sure. I don't know about that.
Okay.
My position is, like, I think that more time should be, and I know people are different, but I just think, in general, I just think people should have more time to kind of cultivate their own thoughts and on that issue.
All right. So that's kind of a good segue to the second part of the conversation I want to have. So, can children really decide that they are gay or transgender or queer or whatever? Can they decide that? Especially when we're talking about preteens, before puberty, before they've had a chance to really develop. When we're talking about 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, right? We're talking about 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. Do they have the capacity to be able to decide their sexuality when they may not even understand the difference, right? So, Sterling, I'm going to pose that to you. I'm going to start you off. Can children make those decisions for themselves?
So, my feeling is that kids know who they are. And I think around this particular question, I think it's probably easier for a kid to understand their gender orientation before they know their sexual orientation. Because, of course, as you said, sexual orientation is something that people begin to discover for themselves as they get older. Gender expression quite often is usually something that's imposed on us very early on by parents, teachers, society. We're going to separate boys and girls, boys over here, girls over here. And you might have someone whose assigned sex at birth was male who says, I don't really feel like I am like the other boys. I actually feel more female than male, or vice versa. There could be the young girl who feels more identified with the masculine gender identity than with femininity. So I think that kind of gender expression awareness typically will come before sexual orientation awareness. That's not the case with everyone, but I'm certain that.
Okay, so your take is that they'll know that whether or not they're a boy or girl before they will know whether or not they like men or women.
Yes.
Okay, understood.
Stella, may I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, gender is a biological term, correct? Is that gender?
So technically, I would say technically sex is a biological term, and gender really has to do with masculinity and femininity and that spectrum.
Okay, so in talking about sex, so talking female and male, so just strictly biological. It's male and female, so it's just from a strictly biological background. It's a binary choice.
Well, and then I would say too that there are folks who are born intersex. So
okay, that's that's true. So, in the absence of that being born intersex, it's a binary choice. So, is it? I understand what you're saying in terms of the thoughts that a boy or a girl could have about not feeling like a boy or a girl, but just strictly from a scientific point of view, in the absence of being born intersex, what's wrong with being a boy or a girl? Like, what's wrong with just saying, okay, you're 10 years old, you have a penis, line up with the boys?
Can I answer that, please?
Go ahead, please. Go, Liz.
I think what East is, proposing is we're talking about social constructs here.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about what society has decided what boys should line up and assign themselves as, and what girls should line up and assign themselves as. If you go into a non-first world population, if you go out into maybe some segments of Nicaragua or Latin America, or populations that haven't been totally taken over by what we consider to be what girls should be and boys should be, where everyone is just living freely and doing what they do naturally, we don't have the same social constructs. We don't have the same, okay, well, girls should be over here and should be doing this, and should be wearing pink, and should be wearing dresses, and should be playing with dolls, and boys should be over here and playing, sports and wearing blue and blue. Like, it's something that we have decided as society that boys and girls should do. And that's completely different from what someone feels about themselves and their gender when they come out of the womb. Now, whether that person agrees to those social constructs is a completely different conversation. But I think when we talk about gender and how people should treat themselves or act in terms of whether they are male and female, that is something that we have totally decided for ourselves. That's not something that's natural. That's not something that just comes out of you when you come out as a boy or a girl, that, okay, you're going to be over here and you're going to automatically like and want to do these things.
I think East's question, though, was what's wrong with that?
What's wrong with what?
Signing those societal gender norms.
Because it doesn't apply to everyone. And honestly, who are we to tell someone you're supposed to act this way? Because you are.
I mean, they're children, right?
I guess.
But they're children, but that doesn't mean that they are void of feelings. I think I
no one would suggest that. I mean, throughout history, we've done that, right? Societally. So, does that indicate that they're devoid of feelings because
I think that's
you're guiding them?
I think that's part of what we're speaking to. And to me, although it doesn't always seem to have the same breadth. Like it sort of speaks to race as well. Like when we spoke about race before, we talked about there's the definition of what was created in America and the place of different people. White people are here, people of color are here, black people specifically, Native Americans are here, Chinese people do that. Like there's all sorts of things that have been created, but it is still a very created system. And I think if we're able to for those of us who it's a stronger attachment to, because it's what we're familiar with, or for whatever reason, like if we're able to take a step back and say, is this a construct that's necessary, or is this another one that was created, then it might allow for a different view.
So you're
If you look at it
suggesting,
that way,
so you're suggesting it's okay to recreate the social construct.
I'm suggesting that it's yes. In short, I'm suggesting it's recreate. It's good to take a look at it and decide whether it's a valid social construct.
Okay.
Or just take a look at it and say that this social construct doesn't work for me. This social construct does not apply to me and how I feel. I think I mentioned this when we were talking about, when we were planning out this show, or even when you put up the question about someone posted, when he's 4, he doesn't understand, and I'm just like, well, when I was 4 and 5, I most definitely knew that I liked boys. I had a crush on a boy at school. And so I offer the question, like, will we be having this conversation about, is it okay for a 4-year-old or 5-year-old to say they like so-and-so if we were only talking about heterosexual behavior, heterosexual feelings? Little kids like one another. Little kids express feelings for one another. It's natural. There's a problem when it's same-sex feelings. That's when people start to become uncomfortable. And I'm not trying to attack anyone for being uncomfortable about that, but that's where the problem lies. If we were talking about 2 kids in a classroom, and a little boy came home and said he wanted to make a Valentine, he was 5. He wants to make a Valentine for the little girl in his classroom who he likes, who he wants to be his girlfriend. No one would have a problem with that. Flip that over, and he comes back and says to his parent, he wants to make a Valentine for the little boy in his class that he likes. Therein lies the problem. That's when the discussion starts, like, this can't happen. He doesn't know what his feelings are. He's too young to express those type of feelings.
Okay. I want Sterling to jump in. Hold on. I want Sterling to jump in.
Yeah, Liz is really speaking to something that is often not talked about and misunderstood, because a lot of people are very quick to brand folks as homophobic, but it's really, in a lot of cases, heterosexism. This idea that things that are within that heterosexual norm are correct and good, and anything outside of that would be incorrect or somewhat abnormal. So I think that a lot of times people are accused of being homophobic when in reality they are actually heterosexist and really just subscribing to this societal feeling that if you everything that relates to being attracted to physically, emotionally, sexually to someone of the opposite sex is good, and anything outside of that is abnormal.
I love that. That's an excellent point of view. I mean, suggesting that, it's not homophobia, it's just heteros. I love that, actually. Heterosexist. All right.
But you love that in lieu of regular relationships. Does that make you your own? We can make a space for you. It's safe if you want to talk about it. Yeah.
But I just want to say real quick, like, I think, I hope the point that I was trying to make might have got, misconstrued, but I'm just strictly thinking from an enumeration process of boys and girls. So when I said over there, I wasn't even considering, like, the stereotypical or general gender assignments of boys play rough, football, and girls go out and play with Barbies or whatever whatever happens. I'm just thinking strictly from an enumerating process of boys and girls. What's wrong with being counted as a boy or being counted as a girl? That's it. I'm not even talking about gender role assignments or anything. It just seems like it's a struggle for some people to pick one. And I'm just saying, just from as a little kid, just be counted as a boy, be counted as a girl, and the other stuff will figure itself out. That's all I'm saying.
Well, what is that? What is that exactly? Being counted as a boy and counted as a girl?
Yeah, that's what I'm confused about too.
Okay,
Explain that.
there are four men, four males talking, and there's one female talking. That's all I'm saying.
Like
I'm not talking about roles. I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about. Who's the breadwinner, and
well,
I'm just.
but I think we're getting into a different because I think we're getting into gay versus transsexual, which is something completely different. Like my older brother, who was 6'4", big, tall, rough and tumble guy, was gay. And I think a lot of people forget that, gay men are actually men. And they consider themselves as men. And so if you ask them if they're a boy or a girl, they are going to consider themselves as a boy. Now, they don't necessarily want to do a lot of the things that society says that boys should do. I mean, my brother was an opera singer. And, he used to dress me up like Erica Kane from All My Children. Like, my brother was very flamboyant, but he was still a male. And I think when people try to get into fights with him, because he would always come home and be like, they tried to jump me, or they tried to take my oboe, they tried to take my violin. And then he would have to beat their ass because they forgot that he is still a guy. He still has a male physicality that can hurt you. But I think when we get into gender assignments and things like that, we're talking about something that's kind of completely different. We're kind of moving into the transsexual conversation, and that doesn't necessarily designate gay or straight.
Yeah.
So, I just want to jump in here because actually there was a lot there.
It was.
So, definitely, and this is me speaking from a lens of being cisgender. So if we talk about transgender folks whose gender identity or expression is different from what's typically associated with their assigned sex at birth, you've got on the other hand cisgender, someone who aligns with it. So born male, I identify as being a man. So just a couple of things. So ideally this part of the conversation would be with someone who is not cisgender. So I will claim that sort of gender privilege, and I am here talking about something that I haven't personally experienced. Although when I was working for Mayor Gray, we did a lot in my office to assist the transgender community and helped and interacted a lot and spoke with and worked closely with members of the community and sort of fixing some things about DC law. So I would say too that nowadays the terminology is transgender as opposed to transsexual, or transvestite, and transvestite has always really just meant people who cross-dress, but a lot of that gets blurred in those lines. But I would say too that when we're talking about people who are cisgender men who happen to like other men, or cisgender women who are attracted to other women, we also too assign a lot of stereotypes on that population.
Yeah.
So,
all right. I want to bring the conversation back to children, though. So, now when we grew up, in our era, right? If you were gay, many people were ostracized, bullied, and had a really hard time. So inevitably, parents today have friends, families that were treated horribly. Right? So there's an emotional response to these stories of their friends and family. So I'm wondering, are we in a time when a child says, I like dresses, or I want to be a girl, or I want to be a boy, and because of all of those stories of hardship, from their family members, and I'm one of those people who have friends and family that, had a very tough time growing up, and the stories are very vivid, and they're part of me because I understand them. I almost experienced them, right? In some cases. So, but my question is, are these parents, is it possible that they're overreacting to a normal, typical comment or feeling from a child, right? And jumping at the chance to nurture their thoughts. So if a child says, hey, I am a boy, or, I believe I said I was a girl when I was 3 or 4, or I played with dolls. I played with dolls. I had very long flowing hair, right? I thought I was a girl, right? But at 3 years old, it's not unusual for a child to say that. But if you look at like a child that says, I enjoy singing, and you start to nurture their singing, you put them in church choirs, you take them to, teachers, then they can become a really good singer. Is it possible that because of our history in the recent past, that we are guiding children to genders that they may not have chosen otherwise, that they may feel like they were a girl, but because a parent was emotionally caught up to it, started to nurture just that comment, at 3 years old, and really tried to almost guide them to being gay or a boy or girl or some other gender. Is that possible? I want to go to Sterling.
So, wow, there's a lot there too.
Yes.
So, I would say that certainly if you have a child who is saying day after day after day, I don't feel like a boy, I identify more so with girls, then yes, I think the astute parents nowadays will talk with that child about it, will begin to explore this deeper. And someone mentioned transitioning earlier, and transitioning can take many, many different forms.
Yes.
It has really nothing, it doesn't necessarily mean someone having any sort of sex reassignment surgeries or anything of that nature. It just mean I'm going to present as someone might of a gender other than my assignment. So it might be that boy saying, you know what, I'm going to try presenting as female and see how that feels. And hopefully they'll have parents that are supportive and will say yes. And because the flip side of that is a situation where someone is told, no, that's wrong, you can't do that. And we know just from statistics that the outcomes for these kids can be like disastrous, that a lot of kids who commit suicide do so because they were forced into one gender expression that didn't align with who they were, or told, oh, you cannot love someone of the same sex, we don't believe in that, that's wrong. And so those outcomes, those suicide rates are higher for LGBTQIA youth or same gender loving youth.
But let me clarify one thing real quick. So I'm not suggesting that parents are forcing their children to be a certain gender. My question is more along the lines of, are they nurturing, a thought? Children have random thoughts throughout their lives. I mean, especially 3 or 4. At 3 or 4, I was trying to figure out, how to speak English, or how to draw and write. Understanding the difference between being a boy and a girl is no way I understood that at age 3 or 4. To have been able to make a decision and tell my parents, definitively that I was a girl. I was just saying it because I enjoyed the things the girls did, because the dolls were cool or the colors were pretty. But that didn't mean that I was actually feeling as though I was a girl. So are parents who could possibly have some emotional issues themselves leading their children? Not forcing, but leading.
I mean, I think
Go ahead, John.
I think that's a double-edged sword, because I think it depends on how strongly you look at every event in our lives. Like, you could say, when I was young, I played soccer for years, and you could look at it like, yeah, he's playing soccer with the other boys, he's learning to be a boy. But as you get older, guys, they get a little bit friendly, they pat each other in places. So you could also say, well, they're a little extra friendly, and I think that's a very relative outlook on almost everything. Because if your child enjoys something and you don't encourage it, then are you really just the guy who killed or the lady who killed that dream? Like you're a murderer. It's so that's all. That's what I see there. Like, there's the chance to encourage growth in your child, no matter what because it's not about gender. It's about your child becoming or exploring what they want to be in a safe space. And so, to me, that's where that speaks to.
Liz, you want to say something?
I was just going to ask, have any of you seen, I'm sure you have, seen the movie Stand By Me?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's one of my favorite movies. I watched it randomly again last night. My River Phoenix moment. But in the movie, the protagonist in the movie, Gordy, if you remember, his older brother was killed in a car accident. And his family was very devastated by that. And so you only saw a couple of glimpses of the brother, but you came to understand and see that he was the favorite child in that family. It was just Gordy and his older brother, who was played by John Cusack. The older brother was a football star. He was in high school. He had scouts coming to see him play football. They thought he was going to get all of these scholarships. The father revered him. Gordy, who at the time was 12 when his brother died, did not play any sports. He was small in stature, and he was a writer. He wrote stories. And his father thought that he was soft. His father basically hated him. And at some point in the movie, Gordy's having flashbacks or dreams about his father, telling him, why couldn't you be like your older brother, Denny?
Right.
Why couldn't you be strong like your brother Denny? And I think in that respect, yes, parents are guiding their children. They see this one physical aspect as masculine, as strong, versus this other, even though Gordy in the movie never once exhibited any type of homosexual behavior. I mean, he was talking about Annette from the Mickey Mouse Club and her boobs. But because he wasn't an athlete, because he was a writer, he was considered to be soft and to be not as much of a man as the older brother who was the athlete, who was the football star. And I think that's what you're talking about, Antonio, in that, parents are, and they may not even be conscious of it. And I'm not trying to attack anyone, but sometimes unconsciously we push these ideas on our kids about what they're supposed to do as a boy, as a male, as a female, and it affects them because he thought that his dad didn't love him at all, that his dad hated him because he wasn't like his older brother who was the masculine football star.
So East, what do you think about that? I mean, what we're saying is, you're guiding your children regardless. So even if you're guiding them towards someone who was born a boy towards a girl, it's the same as someone who's born a boy guiding them to being a boy, a girl. Sorry. So what do you think about that?
I mean, I think Jam hit it from my perspective. It's like, for me, as a parent, I would think that anything that your child latches onto or shows a joy in doing, I think you want to nurture that and foster that and let them take it as long as they want to take it. Like, I mean, because there's plenty of male ballet dancers. There's plenty of female construction workers. Those kind of traditional roles
are straight.
Yeah, right, exactly. And like, if I had a daughter who loved Legos, foster that.
I love
that. That might be a good idea.
He's not paying for college. He's not paying for college for you. Get out of here, kid.
No, but I mean, it's difficult as a parent just to find something that your child loves to do, and I think it would be almost like parental malpractice to say, "Nah, you ain't doing that. That's for girls," or "Nah, come on, honey, stay in your role. That's for boys. You can't be an engineer. You can't be an astronaut." So, no, I think that's I think that's one advantage of growing up in our time period is that we've learned that that antiquated thinking doesn't apply as much these days. Like everything's open. Like whatever you show a proclivity for, just to go for it.
So, JM, question for you. So, if your daughter or a child of yours said to you that, I'm a boy, would you foster that, or would you try to guide them?
Beat it out of them?
Not beat it out.
See.
Would you guide them towards being their sex at birth, or would you immediately try to guide them towards being a boy?
Let me get my stick.
I like that was your first option, though.
I'm gonna get my stick and my pence. I'll be right back. Let's see. No. Again, to me, it's very much like some stuff is as a cis male. I think I got it.
Yes, you did. That's clear.
I think it's harder for me, having grown up like I did, to accept some ideas. But that's just that moment where you create that mirror and you look at yourself and you're like, what type of daddy you want to be? The type the kids push down the chair, push down the stairs in a wheelchair. So I'm going for B. So, but to say that is, like in those situations, you encourage your child to do what they can to reach the goal they want. In my opinion, and this to speak directly to what the question we're addressing, I won't let them make significant life-changing decisions because I don't feel they're old enough until they are like an age where they can say, I can make this decision without dad. And that goes for the Valentine too, because 5 is awful early for anybody to be given a Valentine.
That was
I'll just let you know, I get real serious face on everybody real quick.
That was going to be my final round robin question, actually. So what age is an appropriate age for a child or a person to decide what gender assignment they are? I'll start with, since Jam, you were just talking about it. I
think the ability to make that decision comes with whenever you start feeling the other person, the other people, and eyeballing them. The ability to take action on that is when you're old enough to not have your parents hem you up and try to kill you. So 18.
18.
but that's again. But the decision itself is when you're old enough to feel that way, because you're going to feel that way.
Yeah, sure. But okay, so you're with 18, Liz.
Repeat the question again.
So what age is a good age to be able to make a decision on your gender identity?
When you start breathing. Like, I can't tell someone else how to feel about themselves. I can't tell someone else how they should see themselves, who they should like, how they should express themselves. Or, at 2, 3, 4, and again, I don't have any children, but I have tons of godchildren. I'm Auntie Disney too many. But, if a child that is in my care came to me at 3 and expressed that they felt uncomfortable in their skin, in their current gender, who am I to say you're wrong?
Right.
Now, I might try to talk to them and facilitate and, be like, okay, well, maybe we should go talk to someone and figure out where this is coming from and how we are going to deal with this. But I just don't think we have the right to tell people how they should feel about their feelings.
And East?
I was thinking, because at 18, I mean, the day you turn 18, you just don't say, okay, this is how I feel. Like, the thoughts, and it happens earlier. And I think I'm thinking 15 or 16, and I know kids mature at different rates too. I mean, so we all know,
You saying
right? So
okay.
I would say, yeah, exactly. And actually, if after Sterling and you answer the question, I kind of have a follow-up question for the group.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. Well, let me get Sterling's response, and then we'll get your question as the last question.
Yeah, I would say whenever that child feels like they can articulate that, they don't feel comfortable in a particular gender role per se. If they say, I feel more like this than that, then I certainly think that, yes, you have conversations with that child. Yes, you can go and talk with someone professional about this, but kids are going to know before they're in their teens what their gender identity is in a lot of cases. I'm not going to say in every case, but
sure.
I would think a vast majority of cases.
But
I want to also talk about that safe space thing that we talked about at the beginning, because this is also, as a parent, it's also the responsibility to create an environment where a kid would feel comfortable coming out as trans or coming out as gay, lesbian,
Agreed.
or bisexual. So that means being open and affirming to that just in your interaction. There are things that people say around kids that may not mean very much to them, but it's extremely impactful for that kid.
True.
So it is extremely important, I think, just like we have, thank you, Carter G. Woodson, but we have like Black History Month now. So we know at least in February we're in schools that we will learn about prominent Black people in history.
You went to DCBS?
Similar. Yes. Then there are similar things in LGBTQ history or same gender, like whatever term you'd like to use. There are figures like that throughout history, and it would be great if that was integrated into the curriculum too in schools. That yes, the Civil Rights Movement, the 1963 March on Washington, the chief organizer of that march was Wyatt Rustin, who was an openly gay man, who was extremely impactful on kids. Extremely impactful. And other folks, I mean, there was the jazz musician Billy Timpton, who was a transgender man. It wasn't known until after Billy Timpton died, and actually that's a violation of those doctors who at the hospital who broke all HIPAA laws and like said, oh, this person's like a female, and let that be known. But there are folks like that. The oldest known gay couple in history, and I is an Egyptian couple from like centuries and centuries and centuries ago. So why not include that in school curriculum so people know that they're not isolated?
And East, you have one last question? Okay. East, one last question. East?
No, Nick, you didn't answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. There was a question?
No, your question. You didn't answer your question.
Yeah.
Who's on first? Who's on first?
Oh, a proper age?
Right.
I agree with post-pubescent to make to really know yourself. I think I would have known myself prior to post-pubescence. Oops, press the button. Sorry. I don't think I would have known myself. I don't want to answer the question. That's why it happened. But
I know it's like we're gonna end this segment here.
No, but that's my thoughts. I wouldn't have been ready to make that type of decision for myself until that time. So,
Liz, you're muted, it sounds like.
me,
Liz is.
Liz, that might be my fault too.
And the Jam as well.
Yep,
Hello?
I got you.
We can hear you.
No, I was just gonna
I closed you guys all out. I didn't want to hear you talk anymore. I don't want to see you say anything.
Haters,
I was just going to say that I think people find them. Not everyone finds themselves or knows who they are at the same time. And I think there's an assumption that okay, we can assign a particular age or time period where we should all figure this out. Some of us, know who we are emphatically earlier than others, and so that's also something to take into consideration, not just with this topic, but overall.
Right, I think to jump on that real quick, there's a scientist, and I can't remember his name. I read this study years ago, and he spent time with his baby studying all the baby's expressions so that as the baby got older, he would understand what the baby was trying to say, like even when he was unable to express it verbally. And I can't remember what age. He's like, the kid was, I think, 7 or 8 when they did this interview. But he had studied his face emotions that much. And I think, as a side note, this is one of those responsibilities of the parent. Like, you absolutely, it's great if you have such a safe space that you know your child so well that they don't have to tell you that weird question, so what are you? Because that's not how I think any of us really see that question going down. But more of a, it's definitely how the child develops and how you allow for it to develop. And then whenever you have that discussion, it's there. But I as a side note, I'm still against making any decisions till the child's 18 and can make them for themselves. And you can absolve yourself as the other adult of any responsibility for any drama that hits.
All right, let's get East's last question so we can close this out.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, definitely Sterling, but then everybody else, what do you perceive the media's role is in terms of the promulgation, the how homosexuality, excuse me, has more permeated the society? Really, the question or the issue I felt before I did some research is that it just seemed like the LGBTQ lifestyle was being kind of forced onto certain people.
Maybe,
but then what I did, go ahead.
I was gonna say, maybe are you saying that you feel like it's the in thing to do right now?
Like it's the cool thing, and it's like, and one thing I did when I did a little research was, why does it seem like the lifestyles just in the last few years, I would say 5 to 10 years, just seems like it's like flooded with the media's flooded with homosexual LGBTQ characters. And in doing a little research, I found that there's an agency advocacy group called GLAAD. GLAAD stands for Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. They actually advocate. They actually have a platform that says that by 2020, 10% of the characters will be of LGBTQ background, and they achieved that.
So it's an agenda.
Actually, it's an agenda, and then actually their agenda further states by 25, 20% of the characters on TV will be of LGBTQ background, whether it be starring characters or recurring roles. But like Neil said, like, do people just think this is a cool thing? Like this is a trend or something? Like cross colors, or are they really about the
Liz, I want you to get in on this, but to Sheridan's point, it does feel, simply because because everything's happened so fast. If we look at the last 20 years, gay, lesbian, transsexual, which is a great thing, has become more prominent. But with that said, it has turned into a cultural phenomenon in a way. So I think his question is relevant in that, it does feel like the end thing to do. Liz?
And Liz, I'm sorry, Liz, I know you got a point, but in one of the latest studies, like 4.5% of the American population identify themselves as LGBTQ. I think that's a little low. I think it's higher than that. But one of the latest statistics I saw was 4.5%. But yet 10% of the characters on TV are LGBTQ. And it supersedes the stated population. Like, I'm just wondering, like, is it? That's all. Yeah. I'm not homophobic. Please don't just write down.
Let her answer. Go ahead, Liz.
No, my question was going to be, or comment actually, you could say the same thing about Black culture. All of a sudden, Black culture is popular in the media, on television, in the movies, in magazines.
Thrones.
Not
really good at those. But it's the end thing now to have Black writers, to have a Black cast, to have a Black story, to have a movie that's about.
But it's not in.
But it is in. I didn't say it was on equal playing field or that it was enough, but it's in now. You look at what we see now in terms of Black representation versus even 5 years ago is drastically different. So you can have the same conversation, and my answer to that is, okay, yeah, we now have a voice. Black people now have a voice. We are now being seen. We are now present. The same could be said of the LGBT community. There is now a voice. There is now a presence. And I don't think it's necessarily the end thing. It might be, some kids out there who think it's cool to have a same-sex relationship for the weekend. But you can make the same argument, about, okay, I think it's cool to pretend like I'm down with the brothers. Like, it's one of those things that happens. But I think more importantly, people are being represented for who they are, for where they are in society. I don't necessarily think that, in my opinion, there is enough of an LGBT voice visually from what I see. And if I do see it, it's more stereotypical than it is about the real stories that are going on in the community. But I can say the same thing about what I see with the representation of the Black community. Like, a lot of the shows, a lot of the conversations, a lot of the articles, I'm just like, okay, we've been there, done that. It's the same story over and over and over again, including your show, Insecure. But we're not going to talk.
All right. I'm going to end things with that, actually. I do want to give Sterling one last chance to have the last word. You can say whatever you want. Sterling, go ahead.
Okay, well, what I would say about that in terms of the representation on media and so forth is that it was almost non-existent before, like, the Ellen show back in the 90s, or if LGBT people were portrayed on television, it was in a very negative light. Since that time, we have had more and more characters, and I support GLAAD and what they're doing because one of the things that I experienced growing up, I knew I wasn't the only gay person on television, but it would have been nice, not on television, the only gay person in the world, but it would have been nice to have seen representations of myself on screen in a positive way. So I think we don't know exactly what percentage of the population is LGBTQ because society hasn't made it that easy for folks to come out yet. We like to think we have, but it really hasn't made it that easy for people to come out. And just, I want to say one thing about the coming out thing too, is that there is an illusion that coming out is just a gay thing. Straight folks come out all the time. You go into the office and you are a man and you tell your coworkers about a date you had with a woman over the weekend, you've come out. But you don't think about it in those terms because, again, using that
You weren't hiding
heterosexist
anything in the first
framework-
place, right?
Yeah, or dealing with that heterosexist framework, that's something that is considered, normal or good.
Right.
You flip the script, you do the same thing and say, oh, I had a great date over the weekend with this guy. And people are like, oh, don't bring your life into the office. Why are you oversharing? Why do you have a picture of a guy on your desk? Like, what's happening? I don't understand. And so this speaks to the whole safe space thing and how society is actually going to have to change, because one thing that happened when I was in the mayor's office is we were always correcting these government agencies because people would go down, for example, and I don't remember what agency it is that handles marriage licenses, but they would ask women, what's your husband-to-be's name? Or what's the guy that you're marrying? And that would be like, we call that a microaggression, because you're assuming that this woman is going to be marrying someone of the opposite sex. And so, yeah, there's going to be an adjustment period, and it's going to feel really weird to people who are not LGBTQ and say, well, this is the way we've always done it, and and it's being done so that we're minimizing incidents of the microaggressions, making it so people feel more integrated into society. And also, this is something that happens all the time. It's a public safety issue too with police. That's why DC and several other cities have the gay and lesbian liaison unit that, people would go to report things like domestic violence against the same-sex partner to an officer who is not LGBTQ or had not been given LGBTQ competency training, and that claim was dismissed. More integrated into society, and also this is something that happens all the time. It's a public safety issue too with police. That's why
Somebody's saying something in the background.
Have the gay and lesbian liaison unit that people would go to report things like domestic violence.
Somebody unmuted their computer.
That guy makes a lot of sense. That guy
He does. He's a smart guy.
But that's one of the reasons that DC invested in having an LGBTQ liaison unit, because what they found is that when people were talking to officers who were culturally competent around their issues or identified as members of the community, they were more likely to report crimes. They were more likely to tell the truth. They were more likely to have their complaints taken seriously.
Okay. All right.
Can I get two quick?
We got to close it down. This is a really good discussion, though. Really good. We revisited. Say before jam sessions, we'll bring Sterling back.
It's a now question. It's a now question. Sterling, I need to know, in terms of acceptance, how many people have accepted that shirt that you're wearing?
Everyone with good fashion sense. Everyone.
Thank you, Sterling. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Yes, thank you, Sterling. We do really appreciate you joining us. Thank you. You've brought a lot to the discussion, so really, really good. We appreciate it. All right, we should get you to jam sessions one of these days, though.
See you all.
Real quick, Sterling.
Yes.
You got any business entrepreneurship or any business thing that you want to plug while you're before you leave?
Oh, wow. Well, sure. I work for a company called IRX USA that has a water pipe maintenance device that prevents the formation of rust and scale in pipes and removes existing buildup, and that prevents the formation of biofilm, since biofilm clings to scale and so forth. So that's my quick plug. Go to IOREX global.com and read more information there.
And I've had one installed.
Global.
And yes,
I've had one installed, and it does work.
Wonderful.
Yep.
All right, guys.
Thank you, Sterling.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Sterling. We'll see you next time. All right, so we're back. So we have a lot still left to do. So don't leave us yet. We got an awesome game about to happen. So did all my music just come on at the same time? That's funny.
What's the game that we're playing today?
Trumpets. Let's play
Trumpet.
it. You can do anything.
Grab him by the
Do anything.
Classic quote.
All right, Trumpets the game show.
This hair, y'all.
All right, we're gonna let you take it over, East.
Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read some of Trump's quotes, and what you all need to do is let me know who he's talking about.
Okay.
So
Ready
let's
to
go ahead and
go?
start. Let's go start with the first one.
All right.
She's actually always been very voluptuous. She's tall. She's almost 6 feet tall, and she's
Ivanka. Ivanka.
Is that
and the jam score.
About his own daughter. His own daughter.
It's so sexy.
All right. Number 2.
right? All right.
She's a nasty, vindictive, horrible person.
Rosie O'Donnell.
Not this time.
Pelosi.
Oh, probably Pelosi.
Jam is on a roll.
Oh,
All right.
I don't pay that much attention to that, Bama.
woo! You don't have to. Just choose the female he hates this month.
All right. Third one. I look forward to going, but I thought the Prime Minister's statements that it was absurd, that it was an absurd idea, was nasty.
Oh, sorry.
New Zealand's Prime Minister. Cannot think of her name.
Oh, good guess. Good guess. Not this time.
Damn, knows him some Trump.
Neil, Lewis.
I'm trying to think of a prime minister.
Oh, so probably
Germany?
Merkel.
No, she's talking about the Danish Prime Minister, Frederiksen.
Oh,
She called his idea of buying Greenland from Denmark absurd. Yeah, Denmark doesn't own Greenland, so she called it an absurd idea. All right, moving on. Number 4. I had a falling out with him a long time ago. I don't think I've spoken with him for 15 years. I was not a fan. And he goes on to say a long time ago, I say maybe 15 years, I was not a fan of his. That I can tell you. I was not a fan of his.
The dude who killed himself in jail. What's his name?
oh, Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, that's not right. That's mine.
All right.
Who got it?
Point goes to Liz.
What? Oh, wow. That was
That's not
nasty.
fair.
You described him.
It's not fair.
You said
wow.
knocked it down.
That's fair.
All right, moving on. Number 5. Didn't do big deals. Did small deals. Not somebody that was with me that much.
Oh,
They make it sound like I. Who?
Bloomberg.
Nope.
Damn.
They make it sound like I didn't live without him. He was somebody he was somebody that was probably with me for about 10 years.
Oh, was that the next one? Oh, sorry.
No, number 5. Yeah.
Cohen?
Jam is all
Who? Cohen? Oh, my God.
Oh, man. because it took me a while to figure, because he didn't put the question up, so I had to read the question after the.
Just blame me. Blame me if you took my point.
I'm saying.
Move on to number 6. I don't know him very well. I have not spoken to him much. This is not a man I know well. He seems like a nice guy, though.
Grand Poobah of the K.
They're nice.
Obama.
Maduro?
No. Neil?
I don't know. I don't
Gordon
know.
Sondland. After he called him a great American, he said he didn't know the guy. Alright, moving on to number 7.
Straighten your hat up.
Call Fifi.
An extraordinarily low IQ person has become, together with Nancy Pelosi, the face of the Democrat Party.
Schumer.
Schumer?
Nope. Liz?
Cuomo.
Cortez.
Oh,
Maxine Waters.
Oh,
sorry, Maxine. Sorry.
should have known that.
Alright, number 8. When you give a crazed, crying lowlife a break and give her a job at the White House, I guess it just didn't work out.
Omarosa.
Good work by General.
Yeah, he got it.
Yeah, I was gonna go there. You just beat me to it. It looks like Jam already won. We can't even come back.
Sit down. Sit down.
Alright,
Clearly, I don't know Trump very well.
number 9.
It's not a bad thing, though. Sorry.
That's okay. Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came? Then come back and show us how it's done.
Is he talking about all of Haiti?
No, he was talking about
Baltimore. What's we call it?
Baltimore.
Oh, that's right.
The guy who passed.
Oh.
Oh my God, my husband watching.
Oh man, I feel horrible.
Why don't they go back? They go back.
All the senators who have cities they take care of.
Anybody?
Lewis.
I'm at a loss, buddy.
Any one of 4 people, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez,
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I do remember him saying
and
that.
Ayanna Presley, and Ilhan Omar.
Oh yeah, Kevin
And 4
had
would
it.
be
That's
Elijah Cummings. Elijah Cummings. Damn it.
Alright, last one, y'all. Yeah, she's really something, and what a beauty, that one. If I wasn't happily married and,
Ivana. Ivana. His daughter.
what's the right name?
Ivanka.
Alright, I'll give it to both of y'all. It's Ivanka.
Give it to both of who?
Ivanka is stripper.
In Oregon,
Again, he was talking about his daughter. His daughter.
who's COVID work for her in Oregon?
Who got the other point?
Jam.
That's not even fair.
Jam said, because you said his daughter,
I said his
and then you
daughter.
said Ivanka, and then Jam jumped in there with Ivanka.
Oh man,
So
that
y'all
doesn't
kind
count.
of tied.
Oh my god. I started it first. It should count for me.
Call Fifi. Call Fifi.
Guys are crazy. All right, so
By
that's
the way,
it.
That's it.
That's
this all ties into the Inspector Generals. In case y'all didn't think it did.
Inspector General.
You guys are crazy. It was a good show, guys. Good show. We had a lot of fun. So
Yeah, we gotta get my face back up on the montage there, the whole logo there.
So we're gonna try to. So we do. That's funny. We are gonna try since we have Liz now, and Liz is officially a permanent co-host. So now we got to change the name. So we're gonna make a reveal next week, Sunday, when Liz comes back to us, and we'll see what the new name's gonna be.
3 dudes and a dope. Sorry. My bad. What you say, Neil? Go ahead.
No. All right, don't forget to follow us, like us, subscribe at the NEJ Show. Of course, that'll change soon, hopefully. And we'll see you guys on Wednesday for Jam Sessions. Jam Sessions starts at 8 p.m. And we'll see you next week for another episode of whatever we call it.
Whatever we call it. Whatever we call it.
All right. Have a wonderful day, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. And it was a long episode.
Put your mask on, people. Put your mask on.
Tell 'em.
Hello.
Yeah.
Family.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks.